Blue Stone Bar. Feng was utterly speechless after watching the two Mu brothers' actions. His face turned red without his notice. He looked at the place where Mu Lan was sitting a while ago. Recognizing a face, his eyes narrowed. Isn't this Shin Corporation's wild heiress? So Angel Lan got herself wrapped with two heiresses all at once. This girl certainly is not a common folk. She attracts rich people like honey attracts bees. He huffed and went towards Yen Su. Should I leave her be? But as a close acquaintance, how can I do that? I must take her home or a safe place. Feng coughed a bit and asked, Miss Shin, are you all right? He waited a little but he got no reply. He asked again, Miss Shin? Still, there was no reply. This time, he lightly shook her a bit. The drunk Yen Su moved a little. It wasn't because she woke up from dreamland. Lu Feng's light shake was making her fall down. Feng caught her in time. He sighed. He wanted to leave her alone, but looking at bunch of crap's eyes gazing at her with beastly desire, he thought of helping her. He put her right arm around his neck and he circled his left hand around her waist. He slowly walked towards the door. Before he left, he bade goodbye to his mysterious friend. Feng drove away and took her in his home. He put her down on the bed of the guest room and turned away to leave. Just then, a strong hand caught his shirt and threw him on the bed. Feng was a doctor, not a martial artist. He could never win against a martial artist even if it was a girl. He roughly landed on the bed. All the oxygen he had stored in his stomach went out. His head span for a while. Before he could realize what just happened, a soft yet strong body came top of him. Then he heard a sweet voice, "Oh my, isn't this famous doctor of the Mu family? I thought you are a gentleman. Who knew you are a wolf in sheep's clothes?" The drunk girl giggled. Wild or not, Yen Su was famous for her ravishing body. Right now, she was drunk and wearing a revealing dress. Which man could resist such seductress in the middle of the night? Inexperienced Lu Feng's heart shook. He gulped and said, "It's not like that. Please try to understand. I was only trying to help you. I will leave immediately." Yen Su laughed. "Why so rush? Don't you feel attracted towards me? Shouldn't you take advantage of me?" She rubbed her body against him. Feng thought that something poked his heart. He hurriedly replied, "Miss Shin, if I was that kind of person, I would. I have no desire to force on a drunken woman." Saying that, he shoved her gently and left the room. Yen Su smiled as her eyes glittered. She told him in mind, still as pure as ever. What an idiot! Blue Stone Bar. When Feng left, the mysterious guy looked around the bar. He wanted to drink alone, but he didn't find a perfect place to sit. Hugo came to him and said, "It has been a while, sir." The mysterious guy nodded in reply and looked at the section where previously Mu Lan and her friends were drinking. Hua Lan was still in there, but she was already knocked off. The guy thought that it would be least problematic if he was to sit there. He walked to the section and sat in the corner. He ordered some cocktails for him and Hugo. Hugo didn't disturb him. Hugo knew that this man liked to be quiet. So he didn't join that silent man and sat on a chair in front of a male bartender. The mysterious man sipped yellow cocktail and observed the girl next to him. The ponytailed girl wasn't wearing any revealing clothes like her friends or the other girls around her. She wore a white t-shirt and black skirt covering her thighs. She was unexceptionally skinny. Her skin was pure white jade and she had long brown hair. The attractive part of her was her red lips. Her face was plain and she looked pitiful. Her glasses were large and it made her out of place. After observing her for some time, he concentrated on his phone. He was checking some messages. Just then, his mobile rang out. He answered the call. "Yes? Business?" "Yes. Thank you. He hung up. His small talk woke up Hua Lan. She slightly stirred. The mysterious guy looked at her. Slowly Hua Lan opened her eyes. Her eyes were sleepy, hazy yet sharp. The moment he laid his eyes on her eyes, his eyes froze on the spot. Hua Lan's eyes were gray. They were very attractive and caught everyone's attention. So she wore glasses. Hua Lan looked at the unknown person beside her. She was startled. She wanted to sit up properly, but as her head was still dizzy, her body wobbled. The guy next to her caught her left arm in time and helped her sit properly. He said, "Be careful." Hearing such calm tone, Hua Lan looked at him properly. She saw a handsome face with black hair, fierce gray eyes, sharp nose, and thin pale lips. His eyes were glittering in amusement. Hua Lan was drunk, but she was still Hua Lan. She frowned and asked, "What's so funny?" The guy's right eyebrow rose up. He said, "I'm not smiling." "Your eyes are smiling." Hua Lan pointed out. That guy put his left hand under his left cheek as he looked at the girl next to him. He said, "You are pretty blunt. You are a quiet person." Hua Lan was becoming alert. She was fighting hard to come out of her drunken state. To her, the guy sitting next to her was unknown and suspicious. His gray eyes smiled as they shone in the light of chandelier. She looked around but didn't see her friends. She asked, "Where are my friends?" Hua Lan acted casual, but right now she was afraid to death. The guy in gray eyes put down his empty glass and replied, "3 of them were taken away by their boyfriends. Don't worry, they are safe." He stood up and asked, "What will you do? Do you want me to help you to take you home?" Meanwhile, Hua Lan tried to call her friends but no one answered. She slowly stood up as well. She shook her head and left the place as soon as possible. She grabbed a taxi and drove away. The mysterious guy told Hugo to follow her taxi. He followed her till she reached the campus. Hugo asked, "Should I take you to the hotel?" The mysterious guy was still looking at her back as she walked away and said, "Okay." It was really an interesting night. He thought. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 129. Chapter 129, Who will take the responsibility? Next day. Mu Mansion. It was already noon when Mu Lan opened her eyes. The first thing saw was an open muscled chest. She blinked once, then twice. When the chest didn't go away, she reached her hand and touched it. It was warm and soft. She realized that it wasn't a dream. She was really touching the thing she was actually seeing. Mu Lan jumped in fright. A small scream came out of her mouth. Mu Liang slowly opened his eyes as he heard his wife scream. He looked at her and smiled. What a beautiful thing to see in the morning. He eyed all over her. Finding it suspicious, Mu Lan looked down at her. Ah! Her heart nearly left her body as she saw her fully naked body. She covered her body with the quilt. Her face was pale. Her whole body shook tremendously. What happened last night? Why can't I remember anything? I can't imagine that he would do something like that. Thinking all sort of things, her eyes became red and teary. Watching his wife's teary and pitiable face, Mu Liang's soft expression also changed. He said in a lazy tone, "Before you get to conclusion, I request you to remember what happened last night. I'm the victim, all right, Mu Lan looked at him accusingly. Mu Liang sighed deeply. He pointed at his naked body and said, "I don't have sharp nails and small teeth. Even if I have them, I can't do that to my body myself." Mu Lan shyly glanced at his naked body. Mu Liang's body was well toned. It could make any man or woman drool all over. However, that piece of art was scratched, bitten and given kiss marks all the way down. Slowly Mu Lan started to remember piece by piece what happened after Mu Liang had taken her to her room. It was all her fault. Mu Lan's face was getting red in a second. Mu Liang understood that she recalled the last night activity. Suddenly, he grabbed her hand and pulled her towards him. Ah! Mu Lan yelled in surprise. Mu Liang put her under him as he kissed her deeply. Dot. Mu Lan tried to straggle but all in vain. Mu Liang's tongue invaded her mouth and twirled hers. Her mind started to go blank. Slowly she lost her strength. Mu Liang took out his tongue only when she lacked oxygen. Mu Liang's eyes were in flames. His arousal gave a reaction. Mu Lan could feel that something poked her lower abdomen. Her moist eyes flew open. Looking at her reaction, Mu Liang couldn't help but smile. He kissed her forehead tenderly. He asked, who was the culprit last night? Clearly, he was teasing her. Mu Lan's mind still wasn't working. She said in whisper, I was. Mu Liang asked further, who kissed first? Mu Lan replied, I did. Mu Liang's eyes twinkled as he questioned her, who seduced first? I did. Mu Lan replied. She had yet to break from her blank space attitude. Who will take the responsibility? Mu Liang asked in a husky tone. Mu Lan wanted to cry out loudly. I will. Very well said. Mu Liang kissed her again as a reward. She still could not believe her last night activity. She couldn't blame Mu Liang because she was at the fault. Mu Lan wanted to dig a hole and bury herself there. All she could do was blaming herself. Then and there, she promised herself that she would never touch those drinks again. Mu Lan thought that if it wasn't for gentlemanly Liang, she would lost her virginity before she knew it. Therefore, she was grateful to him. But why this man was kissing her now? Making her breathless, Mu Liang asked, do you want to have a shower? Nothing can be better than getting away from him right now. I'm ashamed to death. Thinking that, Mu Lan nodded vigorously. Mu Liang smiled and said, great. Let's bath together. He swiftly took her in his arms and walked to bathroom. He thought, what? You thought that I can't read your mind? Mu Lan's eyes almost popped out when she realized that she fell into his trap. She was naked and was in the arms of a naked man in broad daylight. She struggled to free herself. What are you feeling shy for? I already saw every inch of you last night. And so did you. Mu Liang said it like it was a matter of fact. Actually, he was enjoying it deep down. It was a hot shower. In the bathtub, Mu Liang could help but touch all over her body and his lips were busy with kissing her rosy lips. He finally had his way to kiss her lips. He couldn't just let it go. Mu Lan already gave in. He was really a good kisser. Her whole body shook in passion. Her body began to get hot. After some time, she started to kiss him back. She wasn't even sure what she was doing. A 15 minutes morning bath became 45 minutes bath. When they finished, Mu Lan had no ability to walk. So Mu Liang gently wiped her whole body and wrapped a towel over her body. He took her out of the bathroom. He dried her wet hair and put clothes on her. Mu Lan lost her last bit of energy to straggle. She didn't know what to feel anymore. She only knew that her heart was going crazy. Her head was dizzy. Her mind was a mess. And she was naked in front of her future husband. Also, they slept an entire night naked. Mu Liang laid her down on the bed and said, "Wait here. Don't move around. I'm bringing the breakfast for you." Mu Lan nodded as she looked somewhere else. Mu Liang's lower part was covered with towel and his upper body was naked. There were still some water dripping from his hair. Some drops were on his naked chest and back. He looked so damn sexy. Mu Lan gulped. Mu Liang kissed softly on her right temple and walked out of the room. Mu Lan covered her red face with her hands and rolled on the bed. Suddenly she opened her eyes and thought, where are my friends? If you find any errors, ads pop-up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 130. Chapter 130, Liang, you big bully. Mu Liang was in extremely good mood. To him, today was a beautiful day. He wore casual shirt and pant and went downstairs. He went straight to the kitchen and asked Cook Eve to give him breakfast for him and Mu Lan. Cook Eve told him to wait for a few minutes and went back to warm up the breakfast she prepared in the morning. Mu Liang looked around and found something odd. He asked, where is Uncle Leo? Cook Eve's body stiffed. She hesitated before saying, he is sick. So he is resting in his room. Mu Liang's eyebrows lifted up. Butler Leo was a diligent person. His maintained discipline more than anyone. He hardly caught cold, let alone fever. How could he get sick? Mu Liang asked, how? Cook Eve was really in dilemma. She cared for her colleague, but how could she tell young master that Butler Leo had caught a fever because last night 2 young masters were reckless and brought 2 drunk young misses home and told them not to disturb them? It was too much for an old heart. Cook Eve answered, don't worry, dear master. It is nothing serious. Brother Leo called Dr. Lu. Dr. Lu sent a doctor to check him. He will be all right. She gave Mu Liang a tray and changed the subject, saying, here's your breakfast. Should I call a maid for help? No one needs to come upstairs. Mu Liang said flatly. Cook Eve nodded. She already started to imagine lots of little Liang, little Feng, little Lan, and little Ing. Before Mu Liang could leave the kitchen, Cook Eve said, tonight's dinner will be special, Mu Liang nodded and left. In the doorway, he halted because someone was entering the kitchen. You? When Mu Feng woke up, it was already noon. His mood was light and blissful. He never felt like this before. He looked down at his arm where his sleeping beauty was sleeping soundly. Her eyes bags were deep. She didn't sleep this well in 4 years. Mu Feng's heart ached as he leaned down to kiss her forehead. Both of their bodies were sticky and smelly. So Mu Feng wanted to take a bath. Thinking of something, he gently took the girl in his arms and headed to bathroom. He gingerly cleaned her and wiped her body. Then put her on the sofa and covered her with a blanket. He changed the bed sheet and then laid her down. He was cautious enough not to wake her up. Later he took a bath and went downstairs to have breakfast. There he met his elder brother carrying a tray of food. Mu Liang stopped at the track and said, you. He totally forgot that he had a younger brother. Mu Feng understood it very well. He sighed and said, having sister-in-law all to yourself, you forgot that you have a brother. Some big brother you are. He looked hurt. Mu Liang frowned and said, we didn't. He meant that they didn't do that. At first, Mu Feng was stunned. Then he squirmed in delight. He said, at last, I won and you lost. Saying that, he patted his brother's shoulder and continued, big brother, it is called real pleasure. Once you taste it, you will only want it more and more. His white teeth were shining like starlight. Mu Liang understood well what his brother meant. So he became a man and brought her home. He thought. Just because Mu Liang didn't do it, did it mean that he lost? Of course not. It meant that he was a true gentleman. If he did it, Mu Lan would never show her true self to him because she wasn't in love with him. What Mu Liang wanted from Mu Lan wasn't her body to pluck pleasure. He wasn't that low. He wanted her heart, her soul. He wanted her to crave for him as much as he did. He wanted her to love him back. That's when he would find his true happiness. He was patient when it came to her. So how could he lose? Mu Liang coldly looked at his bother and said, "Beast." Then he left the kitchen and went upstairs. Mu Feng stood there. He was speechless. Once again, he got a proof that no one can win against Mu Liang, the demon lord. On the bed, Mu Lan tried to call her friends but no one answered. She sighed and put down the mobile. Her head was hurting since she woke up. But so much happened after she opened her eyes that she couldn't feel it. She grabbed her head and stayed silent. Slowly her mind started to flow in the bathroom incident. Mu Liang's hands were touching her everywhere. Mu Lan wiggled in his embrace and couldn't help but moan loudly. Her body shivered in his touch. She felt butterflies in her stomach. His lips could work like magic. Their works on her lips made her senseless. When she couldn't take it anymore, she also started to kiss him back. Slowly she melted in his arms. No. Mu Lan grabbed her head tightly and rolled all over the bed. I cannot think of it. I should not think of it. I must forget it. I must. She was talking to herself. She didn't know that she was being loud. What do you want to forget? Mu Liang entered the room with the tray. Mu Lan jolted on the bed and she sat up. Her heart shook violently. She could hear her own heart was beating loudly. Her face was red. Oh God, please don't let him hear my heartbeat. She prayed in silence. Mu Liang put down the tray on the side table and sat on the bed. Looking at her stiff body, he smiled and said, "Relax your body. I'm not going to eat you up. I have tasted enough for today." Hearing what he said, Mu Lan's face became beet red. She hung her head in shame. Mu Liang found this reaction of her extremely cute. He hugged her in his arms and stroked her back till she felt relaxed. He said tenderly, "Does your head hurt? I'll massage your head." Then he massaged her head. His hands worked like magician. The pain in her head went away. After few minutes passed away, he said, "Let's have breakfast." He took the soup bowl and continued saying, "Let me feed you." Mu Lan's eyes grew bigger. She shook her head in protest. Wasn't I embarrassed enough? She thought. Mu Liang's face closed into her right ear and he said in a husky voice, "Do you want to be punished?" Then bit her ear lightly. Mu Lan's body trembled but didn't protest anymore. Liang, you big bully!" she screamed in her mind. Later, he gave her a glass of milk to drink and then fed her breakfast. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 131. Chapter 131, Is he drunk? After their hot-cold breakfast, Mu Liang wiped Mu Lan's mouth with tissue. Mu Lan kept silent all the time. Her red face was down and she didn't look at the man beside him at all. Mu Liang enjoyed her reaction. He knew that he teased her too much. He smiled inwardly as a warm feeling of love and tenderness spread inside his body. He asked, "You don't have class today. Do you want to go out? Or you will stay here? Tonight Aunt Eve will arrange a feast. You better stay for dinner." Mu Lan nodded. She briefly glanced at the handsome figure, then averted her gaze. She replied, "I want to stay here." Mu Liang smiled in response. He looked at her fondly and asked again, "Do you want to stay in the room and take rest?" Mu Lan shook her head and replied, "I want to stay in the garden." What else could she do? If she would go out, definitely Mu Liang would join her. But if she stayed in the mansion, he didn't have to keep an eye on her and she could relax. Mu Liang could easily understand what's in her mind. He was in good mood and his heart softened. Therefore, he decided to give her some time alone. He didn't want to make her tired. Mu Liang gave her a kiss on the lips and said before leaving, "Be careful." "Okay." Mu Lan replied shortly. After Mu Liang left, Mu Lan got off of the bed. She looked at the mirror and hot blood rushed in her face. She was wearing a low-cut yellow dress. She could the hickeys all over her skin. Mu Lan took out a white silk shawl and put it around her. She tied her hair into ponytail. It had been a while since she was in the mansion. She went out of her room and moved downstairs. She wanted to greet Butler Leo, Cook Eve, Alice, and Emma. She missed their hospitality. In the kitchen, she greeted Cook Eve. Cook Eve was very caring towards her. She asked about Butler Leo and found out that he was sick and went to see doctor. Alice and Emma were happy to see her as well. However, Mu Lan found something very odd. Every one of them avoided looking at her properly and their faces were flushed. It took her minutes to understand the reason. She could recall vaguely that she was drunk and being carried by Mu Liang, and he ordered to the maids and butlers not to disturb them. Mu Liang did it for her good, but it made a huge misunderstanding. "I should have gone out," she thought. Woof! Woof! Mu Lan's chain of thoughts interrupted by a cheerful sound. She looked on her left and found a German shepherd was running to her. It showed a pure joy in its expression. When it got closer, it pounced over Mu Lan. Mu Lan had a weak body and couldn't hold a big dog. So she fell on the grass while the dog was over her body. "Oscar! I'm really glad to see you again." Mu Lan greeted Oscar happily. Mu Lan was in the east wing, and this meant that she was in the vegetable garden. From Mu Liang's study room, this place could be seen perfectly. Oscar, as sharp as he was, found a solitude standing beside the window straightly looking at them. A glint crossed Oscar's eyes. He happily licked Mu Lan's cheek with his huge tongue and showed that how much he missed Mu Lan. The solitude in the dark clenched his fist. Mu Lan was a lass with a pure heart. Her heart filled with happiness after getting such affection. She laughed and patted Oscar's head. She didn't feel wrong at all. As they were hugging and licking, all of a sudden, Oscar heard a whistle. It was a special whistle only for dogs to hear. Oscar knew it very well. His master was calling Lucy. Just as Oscar thought, a beautiful white German shepherd came running to them. It was none other than Lucy, Oscar's wife. Lucy nudged Mu Lan slightly. They still didn't become friends yet. Then Lucy nudged Oscar fondly, bit his ear and tried to take him away. Oscar clearly understood everything. He looked at the window. He saw a dark figure was still standing. Oscar growled at the dark figure and went away with his wife unhappily. Finding his attitude suspicious, Mu Lan also looked at the window but didn't see anything. She went to the lakeside and sat on the swing to play and enjoy the scenery. After a while, she got a call. She looked at the screen and saw Brother Feng was written on the screen. "Hello, Brother Feng," she greeted. "Sister Lan Lan, how are you? I went to your room and couldn't find you," Mu Feng cheerfully said. "I'm fine, Brother Feng. How are you?" "I'm in the lakeside. Do you need something?" she wondered. "I'm actually in trouble. Only you can help me, Sister Lan Lan," Mu Feng said earnestly. Once Mu Lan agreed to help Mu Feng and caught up with marriage thing. This time she wouldn't be fooled. She needed to know what actually Mu Feng needed help with. She said, "I want to help you, but how can I do that if I don't know what you need help with?" Mu Feng hurriedly said, "I need a set of clothes from you. Also, I need some undergarments." Mu Lan really didn't know what to say at first. "Are you a pervert?" She thought inside, "Is he drunk?" "Sister Lan Lan, I'm a pure soul with poor heart. Please try to understand. I need them right now. If I don't have them, I might die." Mu Feng's voice was urgent. Mu Lan thought for a moment and then said, I'm asking Liang first. Feng interrupted her. He was horrified as he pleaded, Sister Lan, please I beg. Don't involve my big brother. You have lots of clothes. Please spare me one set. Am I not your most beautiful, most dashing, most intelligent brother, Feng? Am I not the one? Mu Lan sighed and interrupted. I'm coming. She didn't want to hear his explanation anymore. If he really needed one, she would give him. After all, they were the people who gave her clothes. Thank you, Sister Lan. Then Mu Lan hung up. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 132. Chapter 132, What is wrong with everyone? Mu Lan went to her room and found Mu Feng was striding one side from another side. When he saw her entering, his eyes lightened up. Sister Lan, thank you for coming. Mu Feng looked extremely happy. Mu Lan sighed inwardly and straightly went to the point. What type of dress do you need? Mu Feng started to describe an imaginative dress, high-neck dress with full-sleeved, more like maxi, and it would be better if it's comfortable. He had no intention to let others see his wife's body full of hickeys. What else? Mu Lan already started to look for a maxi-styled dress. Mu Feng hesitated before saying, You underwear. Mu Lan shot a glare. Mu Feng pleaded as he bowed thrice, Dear sister, please spare me this time. I really need them. If Mu Feng could, he would go for shopping. But he was afraid that when Qi would wake up, she would be alone. He didn't want their first night experience would go wrong. He also didn't want others to buy dress for her, and he also searched in the internet to buy a perfect imaginative dress for Qi, but he didn't find one. So he had no other option left except asking Mu Lan. Searching for a while, Mu Lan a white maxi-styled cotton dress. It had high collar and also full sleeves. It was very comfortable too. She never wore it, so it could be given. As for underwear, Mu Lan glanced at Mu Feng. Mu Feng asked, What is it, Sister Lan? Do you really need underwear? Mu Lan asked. Mu Lan didn't want to invade someone else's personal boundary. But giving her own underwear to the opposite sex was little odd for her, even if she had to give it to Mu Feng. Mu Feng nodded vigorously. Underwear is the most important. Qi won't be satisfied if she could wear underwear, he thought as he sweated. Mu Lan sighed and took out a new piece of bra and panty and put them inside the dress. Then he gave it to him. Mu Feng sighed in relief and thanked Mu Lan twice and then hurriedly left. How old is he? Mu Lan wondered. Mu Feng went to his room and put down the dress on the sofa. After that, he took some documents and read them as he sat beside sleeping Qi. Qi woke up after the lunchtime had passed. She opened her eyes, but feeling pain in the head she frowned. She closed her eyes, then opened them again, and first thing she saw was Mu Feng, who was sitting beside her and reading some official documents. Looking at his face, she remembered the past and smiled a little. Mu Feng found a movement beside him. He looked at the girl who was sleepily looking at him. His heart melted at the sight. Mu Feng smiled at her lovingly and kissed her cheek. He said, Good morning, Ing. Did you sleep well? Qi felt shy thinking about last night and nodded lightly. She tried to move but gave out a soft whimper as her back was sore. He really overdid it, she thought. Mu Feng became worried. He asked, Is it that painful? Actually, it was excruciating. They did it till sunrise. In the last part, Mu Feng forgot to hold back. They were in deep passion, so both of them cared less about it. Now, Qi couldn't move at all. Qi said in a low tone, I can manage. She already looked pale. Mu Feng felt guilty. He remembered what his elder brother said to him. Beast. Mu Feng now believed his brother's word. He said, "You don't have to get up. Just stay like this. I got you some clothes for you. When you get up, you can wear them. As long as you are in my room, don't worry about wearing nothing." Qi Ying's face turned red. How can he say that? She wondered. Are you a pervert? She questioned. Mu Feng was speechless. What's wrong with the people of this household today? Why is everyone questioning my character? I'm just worried about my wife. I don't want her to do anything which will cause her more pain. Mu Feng blinked before saying, I just want you to relax and don't want you to move around. It will hurt you more. I can't stay naked. Qi Ying stammered. She continued while touching her head, my head hurts. Mu Feng sighed and helped her to sit on the bed. Though he liked her stay naked, he couldn't say that. Maybe he was a pervert as they said. As Qi Ying had hard time to wear dress on her own, Mu Feng helped her to wear bra, panty, and dress. In the daylight, Mu Feng was helping her wearing dress. A shy woman like Qi Ying couldn't lift her head. Mu Feng knew her personality very well. He didn't pressure her by teasing her unlike his big brother. Mu Feng said, wait here and rest. I'll bring some food and ice. As he said, Qi Ying's stomach growled. She was too embarrassed to look. Mu Feng smiled fondly at her and kissed her on the head before he left. After Qi Ying finished her breakfast, she wished to visit the flower garden. Aren't you sore? Mu Feng asked worriedly. Qi Ying once again turned red and said, I want to. Mu Feng didn't object anymore and took her in his arms. Qi Ying struggled slightly. She didn't want the maids and the butlers know what happened last night. However, Mu Feng didn't budge. He said, I'm not letting you walk on your own when you are in pain. Qi Ying hid her face on his shoulder in shame. Mu household servants were very polite. They were trained properly before they started working. So no one commented about their master's private lifestyles or started rumors. They didn't look eye to eye at their masters and mistresses and also the guests. They were very well behaved. Once again, their mannerism was proved when Mu Feng took Qi Ying in the flower garden. Not a single maid or butler looked at them, neither did they comment. They only bowed and greeted their second master and second miss in silence. Mu Feng put down Qi Ying on the grass. She liked to sit on the grass bed. Mu Feng said, stay here. I'll bring some documents. Qi Ying nodded and replied, okay. Mu Feng left. Qi Ying enjoyed the flower garden. She felt happy when she saw some familiar plants she gave to Mu Feng 4 years ago. While she was thinking of the past, she heard a rustle sound and looked back. Her face immediately changed. If you find any errors, ads pop-up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 133. Chapter 133, What a Big Fat Liar. Qi Ying enjoyed the flower garden. She felt happy when she saw some familiar plants she gave to Mu Feng 4 years ago. While she was thinking of the past, she heard a rustle sound and looked back. Her face immediately changed. Ying? The person who was standing said in a surprised tone. Though it was just a name, it sounded more like a question because the speaker couldn't believe what she was seeing. Hua Lan? The person who was even more surprised was Qi Ying. Hearing Qi Ying's voice, Mu Lan confirmed that it was actually Qi Ying. She wasn't daydreaming. She asked, it is you. How come you are here? That's exactly I want to know. Qi Ying exclaimed. Mu Lan still had to recover from shock. She sat beside Qi Ying and said, okay, first thing first. You were really drunk last night. I was worried. I called you after I woke up but I couldn't reach you, neither did I reach others. How are you feeling? I am fine. But what about Yan Su and Shui Lin? Xiying thought her brain stopped working. She had no clue for what reason Hua Lan would be here. Mu Lan replied, I think I can get help from Brother Feng to look for them. Truthfully, Mu Lan was really worried about them. But her mind went blank when she was with Mu Liang. She thought, I shouldn't disturb Liang. He is busy. Mu Lan looked at Xiying, so can you tell me how did you end up here? Did Mu Feng and you recoil? Congrats. Xiying turned red. Yeah, it's because you helped me. Thank you, Hua Lan. She shyly looked at Mu Lan and asked, how did you find out? Mu Lan looked at the dress Xiying was wearing. She was not going to tell Xiying how much Mu Feng begged for this single dress and also underwear. If she did, she knew that Xiying could never talk to her normally. Also, there was a possibility that Xiying would get mad at Mu Feng. Mu Lan had no wish to break them apart. Therefore, Mu Lan replied, it's not hard to guess. She averted her eyes. She just saw a red kiss mark on Xiying's neck. She didn't want to imagine what happened between Xiying and Mu Feng, but Xiying's face was practically radiant. Mu Lan commented, you look different today. Her face was getting warm. Xiying flabbergasted. She hurriedly changed the topic, you didn't tell me how you ended up here. It's a long story. Mu Lan answered. I'm listening. Xiying looked really interested. Mu Lan took a deep breath before starting. 11 days ago, I woke up with amnesia. Since I woke up, I was in this mansion. They helped me to recover. In exchange, I'm helping them with something. Mu Lan didn't tell Xiying the whole story. She thought, the less people know about it, the better. Xiying was speechless hearing such story. She felt a little guilty. Amnesia? I'm sorry, I shouldn't have asked. It must be painful for you. It's all right. You don't have to feel bad. I'm enjoying this life. Mu Lan smiled. Xiying could help but ask, are they forcing you to do something you don't want to? You can tell me. Forcing me? I never thought like that. It's not that I don't want to marry Liang, as Mu Lan wondered, her face flushed. Are you sick? Your face is red. Xiying said worriedly. Mu Lan changed the topic. She continued the previous topic. Brother Feng said that his grandfather was ill and he wanted to see granddaughter-in-law badly. Brother Feng asked me to be wife of Liang. To show my gratitude, I agreed. Did she just say Liang? She just called eldest young master of Mu family Liang. Xiying was bewildered. She lost her words. Xiying looked at the smiley Lan. This girl lost her memory but still fought for her existence. She didn't feel devastated, but she adapted herself in this new life and enjoying herself. She never let her show her weakness to anyone. And what am I doing? Don't I also have the right to fight for my own existence and happiness? Why should be oppressed when I have the most powerful man backing me silently? This is the least I should do for Feng. I should fight like Hua Lan. Xiying looked at the girl beside her in a new vision. Her thought drifted to somewhere else. You are very tough, Hua Lan. I will try to become like you. Mu Lan felt awkward. It wasn't that she was tough. It was because Mu Liang supported her. He gave her the sense of security. When the two girls were in their own thoughts, a voice came behind them. Sister Lan? Mu Feng asked in a surprised tone. Mu Lan looked at the Romeo and said, I found out what treasure you were hiding. Mu Feng felt a little embarrassed and replied, I was actually looking for you to let you know properly. He laughed awkwardly. What a big fat liar. Both Xiying and Lu Lan thought. Mu Lan changed the topic and said, Brother Feng, we are worried about our two friends who were with us yesterday. Can you check them if they are okay? Please look for them as soon as possible. Qi Ying said worriedly. Mu Feng sat other side of Qi Ying and took out his cell phone. He called Hugo. Hugo was at the gym. So he took time to answer the call. Yes? He asked in his indifferent voice. Do you know the whereabouts of two other friends of Ying and Sister Lan? Mu Feng asked. One went to the dorm, and Miss Shen went out with Dr. Lu Feng. Hugo answered stoically. Mu Feng's eyebrows rose up. He shortly said, okay. And then hung up the call. He looked at the ladies and said, they are safe and sound. Don't have to worry. Apparently, tonight we have a party. Right now, you can think of how to eat all those foods. If you miss out one of them, you'll regret it. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 134. Chapter 134, what he wants, he gets that. Mu Feng's eyebrows rose up. He shortly said, okay. And then hung up the call. He looked at the ladies and said, they are safe and sound. Don't have to worry. Apparently, tonight we have a party. Right now, you can think of how to eat all those foods. If you miss out one of them, you'll regret it. Mu Feng went on and on, like a chatterbox. Suddenly something caught his eyes. He asked, Sister Lan Lan, are you feeling cold today? It was October. The air was slightly cold, but it was normal weather. Mu Lan shook her head as she answered, no. Why do you think so? As soon as the words left her mouth, she realized her mistake. But it was too late. Then why are you wearing shawl? Mu Feng asked as he was puzzled. Just then something came in his mind. He sheepishly asked with a goofy smile, are you trying to cover up something? Clearly he meant that something steamy happened last night. Mu Lan controlled her racing heart. In front of Qi Ying and Mu Feng, she had no problem of controlling her emotion. If it was Mu Liang, she heart would go crazy by now. Mu Lan smiled at Mu Feng and asked in sweet tone, Brother Feng, is your nose bothering you lately? Half of her words were in her mind. If I request Liang, I believe he will make an arrangement to get rid of it. Mu Feng was clever enough to understand the hidden meaning behind his sister-in-law's words. He scratched his head as he laughed like a fool. Ah ha 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 ha. Not at all. Not at all. I'm your dear little brother. I'm so cute and tiny. I care for you so much. That's why I was asking if you caught cold or not. It seems like you are healthy. I'm relieved. Qi Ying looked at her beloved and was speechless. He is not only shameless in bed, but also in the garden at broad daylight. She thought in shame. Mu Lan didn't bother with him anymore. She got up and said, I won't become a light bulb between you two. I'm going back. After Mu Lan went away, Mu Feng laid his head on Qi Ying's thigh, just like 4 years ago. Qi Ying asked in amazement, how could you ask her things like that? Isn't she your future sister-in-law? Mu Feng replied and smiled, she is exactly my future sister-in-law and that's the reason why I'm having fun with her. I want her to become more friendly and relaxed when she is with us. So that, after she gets her memory back, she won't be able to leave us. Mu Feng took Qi Ying's hands and played with them. Qi Ying enjoyed his touch and said, I heard from Hua Lan that you told her about your grandfather's illness. What I know that there is no such thing. He is living a healthy life. Why did you make up such trap? Mu Feng sighed deeply and replied, Big brother loves her for 3 years. When she lost her memory after an accident, he wanted to take care of her. He can never deceive her. Therefore, as a brother, I wanted to do something for him. Qi Ying smiled and leaned in to kiss Mu Feng's forehead. She further asked, but what about Hua Lan's heart? Isn't she being forced like this? Mu Feng gave a confident smile. He asked her back, do you think there is a woman who won't fall his charm? You are different and so does sister-in-law. But trust in my brother's ability. What he wants, he gets that. Shi Ying frowned. She said, don't say things like that. It feels like you two are kind of devils waiting for your prey. Mu Feng lightly kissed her lips and asked as he winked, are we not? Lu Feng's residence. Yan Su woke up with heavy pain in her head. She frowned as she sat up on the bed. That should not be an expression of a princess first thing in the morning. A gentle voice said. Yan Su's expression immediately changed. She gritted her teeth in pain and said, have a hangover and say that line again. Unlike you, I have high tolerance in alcohol. The voice replied. Shut up and treat my pain. Aren't you a doctor? Yan Su bickered. That I am. Lu Feng sighed as he came closer. He gave Yan Su a mug of hot tea and said, drink it. I mixed herbal, so it will ease your pain. Yan Su sipped in and nodded, it is good. She looked at Lu Feng and asked, are you experimenting on herbal now? Lu Feng said shortly, aren't I your rival? Do you think I'm going to tell you about my experiment? Jin Corporation had their own medicine company and they became rival of Lu Corporation. Jin Corporation's sole purpose was business while Lu Corporation's main target was to research and to find cure for various diseases. Their main focus was medicine. However, Jin Corporation's main focus was clothes. Medicine was one of their side businesses. Though Lu Corporation had no enmity towards anyone but Jin Corporation made them their rival. Yan Su pouted. What a cold-hearted doctor. She murmured. Well, thank you. Hurry up and leave. I'm busy. Lu Feng said and walked to the door. What? Is that how you treat your guest? Yan Su got mad. This guy is deliberately doing it. She thought. That's for telling me cold-hearted. Lu Feng replied. Yan Su gave him a lustrous smile. She asked, what? Does it hurt you that much? Lu Feng's heart shook. He controlled himself and replied, think what you want but I want you to go back to your campus in 30 minutes. Then he left the room. Yan Su was perplexed. She asked to herself, when did that guy become a monk? After 30 minutes when she went out of Lu Feng's residence, then she remembered a man was picking up Mu Lan. She couldn't see the face properly because her eyes were blurry. As she think of that, her face became as white as sheet. Yan Su immediately called Mu Lan. If you find any errors, ads pop-up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 135. Chapter 135, Wild Imagination. Mu Lan answered the call after the second ring. She asked, Yan Su, I was worried about you. Are you all right? Yan Su didn't check her phone when she hurriedly called. She replied, I'm sorry, I didn't check. I'm all right. I'm going back to campus. Where are you? She almost said that she saw a man picking Mu Lan up. But she held her tongue. I'm outside now. I'm a bit busy. I'll come tomorrow at the campus. Mu Lan didn't want to tell Yan Su about where she was now. She felt a bit guilty but she didn't know Yan Su properly yet. Yan Su understood that Mu Lan would not tell her anything. She answered, I won't disturb you then. Bye. Bye. Mu Lan hung up the call. Meanwhile, Yan Su was having wild imagination. Hua Lan didn't tell her title. Does that mean she is a princess? Maybe the guy who took her last night was her knight in shining armor? She must be in a hidden identity and that's why she couldn't tell me about her. Or maybe she is a mistress and her master took her away. Maybe she was punished for being drunk. Therefore, she couldn't get up from the bed and said that she will come tomorrow. Yansu imagined a half-naked Mu Lan on the bed with red face and moist eyes. She was begging for mercy. Yansu got excited as she delightfully went back to campus. Mu Mansion. After a wonderful feast, Mu Feng and Xiang went back to his room. Xiang was thinking of Mu Liang, who dramatically changed in front of Mu Lan. He was very attentive towards Mu Lan and made sure that she would eat a lot. Mu Lan was not a spoiled brat. She ate everything in silence. Sometimes she praised Cook Eva's cooking skill and said that how much she missed it in past few days. When they reached the bedroom, Mu Feng hugged Xiang from behind. He asked, "What's wrong? You have been thinking something for a while, but." Xiang looked back at him and hugged him closer to her. She said, "I was thinking about Hua Lan." Mu Feng carried her to the bed and put her down. As she laid down, he changed his clothes and laid down beside her. He embraced her in dark and asked again, "What did you think of sister-in-law?" Xiang buried her head in Mu Feng's muscled chest and breathed in his smell. She replied, "I was thinking that she lost her memory and yet she didn't show her powerlessness. She is strong and intelligent. I'm nothing like her." Mu Feng rubbed her head lovingly and said, "Who said you aren't brave and intelligent? Didn't you stay strong after I stupidly left you? Also, you clearly spied on your own family. In my eyes, you are very strong and intelligent. Just believe in yourself. Xiang smiled at his word. She nodded and said, "You are right. If I believe in myself, I can do it, can't I?" Mu Feng kissed her lips lightly and said, "Yes, my princess." Xiang looked at the man beside her and said, "I've decided. I'm going to talk to my family about us and tell them to refuse the marriage proposal." Mu Feng smiled at her and said, "You won't be alone. I'll stay with you." Xiang shook her head. She said, "No, I won't take your help. I want to do it alone, just like Hua Lan is facing everything alone. My dear wife, she is not alone. She has my brother with her. And also, you don't have to as strong as her." Mu Feng started to panic. "I want to deal with my family alone. If I can't even fight against my family, how can I fight against the world?" Xiang protested. Mu Feng felt helpless. His wife got quite spark in her after she found out about Mu Lan. "Why will you fight against the world anyway? Who will dare you fight against you after knowing that you are my wife?" Xiang felt wrong. She asked, "How will I able to support you if I'm not strong?" "Who said I need you strong to have your support? You stay beside me, keep smiling happily is enough for me to boost up 5,000%. Mu Feng coaxed his wife. "Fine, you win. But I'm going alone this time." Xiang was stubborn. Mu Feng sighed in relief. He said, "I don't mind. But you can't go to your house. I'm sorry, but after you go there, they might not let you leave. And I know that you don't want me to destroy your house either. You can meet your family in a restaurant or a hotel. While eating, you can tell them your thoughts. Of course, I will send guards to keep eyes on you all the time. They will surround the whole area. That way, you won't have to be nervous. Must you do this?" Xiang asked him. Mu Feng nodded while saying, "I must. Who knows if you are carrying our child right now or not?" Xiang blushed at his words. Last night, when they were drowned in pleasure, none of them thought about protection or anything. If she were to get pregnant. Mu Feng suddenly looked very lively. He said, "Ing, let's make some babies." Ying's face dyed in many shades of red. She exclaimed, "Wah, Dot." Her scream was stopped by Mu Feng's passionate kiss. When they both became breathless, then Mu Feng moved away his lips. He said in a husky voice, "Don't worry. Tomorrow you have class. So I'll be gentle with you." Ying's mind was flying in the cloud. She asked, what if I get pregnant? What are you getting worked up about? If you are thinking of your important classes, I'll hire your teachers to come to our house and teach you properly. Giving a solution, Mu Feng again kissed her. It was even more passionate. Their rooms filled with moans, rustle sound of clothes and friction of two bodies. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 136. Chapter 136, I'll remember this forever. Meanwhile, Mu Lan was in her room. She took a bath and dried her hair. She sat in the wooden stool as she combed her hazel-colored hair. In that moment, someone knocked her door. Mu Lan asked Alice to arrange her some dry food after dinner. So she thought it was Alice. Come in, she said. You asked your maid for dry food? A deep voice asked. Mu Lan was startled as she jumped up. She saw Mu Liang was standing in the doorway wearing his cotton pajama. He was carrying some packets containing dry food. I did. Is that a problem? Mu Lan didn't expect him. So she became nervous. She didn't want to repeat last night. No, it's just that, if you want to eat anything, you can just order anyone. If you want to eat Aunt Eva's cook, you just need to order. Why will you go through such trouble? He said. Mu Liang put the packets on the table and eyed at the woman before him. Mu Lan was wearing a lavender silk nightgown with thin lace. It hugged her luscious body. He could see all her curves in the light. Mu Liang's eyes darkened. He asked, "Are you done?" Mu Lan nodded slightly. She was a bit confused. Before she could think of anything, Mu Liang turned off the light, strode to her, took her in his arms and carried her to the bed. He laid her down and he lay beside her. Mu Lan's heart shook as she tried to move away. However, Mu Liang hugged her tightly. He asked in a deep voice, "Where do you think you are going?" "This is what I want to ask you." Mu Lan thought. She replied, "It's not a good idea to sleep together before marriage." Mu Liang smiled as he bit her left ear. He said, "Don't be so shy. We have seen each other fully last night. Have you forgotten already? Don't tell me that you also forgot today we took bath together. Naked." He kissed and licked her ear. HNN. Mu Lan gave a light moan as her body shuddered. Mu Liang didn't stop his lips as they traced her nape. He continued in a husky voice, "What a shame that you have forgotten everything. Let's continue from where we stopped last night." His hands began to move all over her body. Mu Lan subconsciously arched her back. Her body started to become hot. Her breaths became irregular. She put her hands on Mu Liang's firm chest and tried to push her away. Liang, stop. I have class tomorrow morning. Making sculpture is hard. It takes lots of stamina. It was good that she could remember her class routine. Mu Liang stopped himself and sighed deeply. He put his head on her soft bosom. "I miss you a lot," he murmured. His voice was very lonely. Mu Lan felt that an arrow pierced her heart. She removed her hands from his chest and put them on his back. Making Mu Liang surprise, she hugged him tightly. Then she began to stroke his silky dark brown hair. "I will come to see you sometimes, so you won't feel lonely anymore," she said in a soft voice. Mu Liang's body froze and he forgot to breathe. A strong urge was suffocating him. He looked up to see the woman who was embracing him. Mu Lan also looked down at him. They kept looking at each other without blinking. Then Mu Liang made a move. He moved on the top of her and kissed her. First it was a light and longing kiss. After a long time, Mu Liang stopped and looked down at Mu Lan. Her face was slightly flushed as she glanced at him. Then he leaned down and kissed her again. It was a deep kiss. After that, he glanced at her again. Sensing no rejection from her, this time he kissed her deeper. He slipped his hot tongue in her mouth and played with hers. They became breathless. Their bodies moved together. Mu Lan's laces of the nightgown slid from her shoulder. Mu Liang's cotton shirt was open. As their lower parts were pressed against each other, Mu Liang had a reaction. His hands slipped in her thigh and cupped her buttocks. H&M. Mu Liang moaned as she arched her lower part, which crushed something hard. Mu Liang groped her and grinded her against him as if it was not enough for him. Something poked Mu Lan's lower part. She couldn't take it anymore as her body trembled and she circled her legs around Mu Liang's waist. Astonished, Mu Liang glanced down and saw a red face. Her eyes were fuzzy and teary. Her lips were open and moist with his saliva. It was very inviting. Mu Liang cupped her left breast and gave a squeeze. Mu Lan arched her back and gave a moan. His eyes darkened. He sighed, gritted his teeth. He stopped himself and hugged her to calm himself down. I should stop before I lose my control, he thought. Liang, Liang. Mu Lan's mind was blown away as she looked at the handsome man before her. Mu Liang laid down and took her in his arms. He kissed her forehead and said, I won't force you. I want you to give me your heart first. I don't wish to take you before you want to be with me. I want to cherish you and it won't change in the future. Mu Lan laid down her head on Mu Liang's broad chest. She took some deep breaths to calm herself. After quite some time, she replied, Liang, I'll remember this forever. Later, she closed her eyes and drifted to sleep. Once she said that she would not make Mu Liang regret his decision to take her as his bride. This time she said that she would forever remember the fact that he said that he would cherish her. Mu Liang's body felt a warmth as his heart melted thinking of her words. He hugged her tenderly and closed his eyes. His lips curved into a smile. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 137. Chapter 137, Stronger Than Before. Next day, Mu Lan and Qiying were supposed to leave together, but Mu Feng said that Qiying wanted to sleep more. Mu Feng also assured that Qiying's class was at noon, so there was nothing to worry. He didn't dare to mention that Qiying fainted in the passionate battle last night. Thus, Mu Liang sent Mu Lan back to school campus. However, when they reached, he didn't want to let her go. Mu Liang ordered Ronald to get out of the car. The young driver followed the order with a flushed face. At last, Mu Liang let her go, after giving her lots of kisses. When Mu Lan came out of the car, her face was red. Mu Lan went to her class and heard about their upcoming assignment. The school was going to hold an evening ball. People from prestigious families would be invited. The evening ball would be arranged like the ball from 18th century. The one who was going to arrange it was the Department of Arts. Now the department had to show their skills. The students of interior design, fashion design, fine arts, photography, music, culinary and food decoration would be divided into groups. Each department would have their own leader and their leaders would plan together to make the ball successful. Only freshmen were going to have the assignment, which meant Mu Lan, Yansu and Qiying also had to attend. From Mu Lan's Department of Fine Arts, they chose their leader. That girl was in Dawn. She was arrogant but a promising leader. Their classmates were divided into 3 groups. One team was going to make various sculptures. They had most of the students. Another team was going to paint with oil color. They had second most students. They had lot of tasks which they needed a large group. And the third team was going to paint with watercolor. They had only 4 students. Mu Lan was one of them. Since it didn't need to be done with a group, they would do it individually. Their leader and provided them with theme and disclosed the plan. Everyone was excited. Thus Mu Lan's hacking practice was halted. She had to study arts of 18th century or restoration period. In the lunchtime, she had to eat with her watercolor group. In the evening, she would spend her time with her other classmates. Yan Su and Qiying had similar situation. Hugo was also busy as he had to make sculpture, but he didn't know about restoration period and such. He had no desire to study about it at all. Therefore, he asked Mu Lan's help. In exchange, Hugo would cook her dinner and breakfast. Mu Lan got busy with drawing and counting to make an incredible sculpture. It took mathematics skills as well. Mu Feng would disturb Mu Lan time to time. Sometimes, he could go through Qiying's phone and it would make him worried. Unlike Yan Su and Mu Lan, Qiying had even more difficult task. Designing and making dresses for numerous people was strenuous. At first, Mu Lan would answer him politely. But Mu Feng was very childish. In the end, she had to request Mu Liang so that Mu Feng wouldn't disturb her anymore. Getting warning from his elder brother, Mu Feng could do nothing but sulk. In the middle of everything, Qiying managed to contact her family. Mu Feng hired a hotel room and positioned bodyguards for Qiying. Everything went well according to plan. As they expected, Qi family was furious. But they couldn't do anything against the king of the underworld and top-rated businessman. Qi Ying's elder brother Qi Yang and father Qi Zheming's faces were solemn. They had heavy mood. However, Qi Ying's French mother Agatha Bonnet was pleased to see her daughter grew up well enough to control her own life. She knew that if anyone was out there to make her daughter happy, it was Mu Feng. Mu Feng was very caring towards Qi Ying and it would never change. That Mrs. Qi understood perfectly. Seeing her son and husband had quiet faces, she could do nothing but sigh. Agatha had opposed to the marriage of Qiying and the Chinese military from the very beginning. She found out that the one who made her daughter suffer so badly was those Chinese. Still, that heartless Qi Zheming and Qi Yan wanted to get Qiying married off to them. Because of Qi Zheming's stupidity, he fell into the trap of Chinese military. Thus he offered them his daughter. Qi Zheming always thought of success. He was blinded by greed and for that reason, he fell into their trap. To make everything right, he offered his own daughter. Now that his daughter refused, what could he do? Qi Zheming tried to emotionally blackmail his daughter. He knew that hard way wouldn't work. So he took the pitiful way. However, Qiying knew her father better. She said, "You want to sell me off to the people who almost killed me? Daddy, did I do anything wrong to you? Do you hate my existence that much?" In the end, Qi Zheming lost his cool and said, "Yes. Yes. I hate you. I nurtured you for so long and you repay me with what? You are stabbing my back from behind. If you are not useful to me, then why should I care? You probably should have died 4 years ago. This way, I would be freed from them." Then he left. Qi Yang's face was black as he left behind his father. He didn't say a single word since he came. Only Agatha had a sad face. Her eyes were red. She blessed her daughter with good fortune before she left. That night, Qiying spent her night in Mu Mansion. She cried a lot in Mu Feng's arms. In the middle of the night, she had an extremely high fever. She was unconscious for a whole day. It took her 2 days to reduce the temperature. Those 2 days, Mu Feng was so worried that he almost brought the whole hospital. However, Mu Ling and Lu Feng managed to hold him down. After her fever subsided, Qiying went to her school and met her worried friends. She had lots of tasks to deal with. She finished them one by one with the help of her friends. Mu Lan had to patch up her fingers multiple times. Yan Su messed up every time she touched a new lace. Shui Lin was very helpful. She was used to mend her own dresses. As she had no evening ball assignment because she was in the psychology department, she helped Chiang a lot. Their friendship became stronger in these days than it was before. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 138. Chapter 138, Assignment. 1 month passed by. There was still a month left before the ball. Mu Lan was exhausted as she sat on the sofa in her room. Today was weekend. Mu Lan had no class. Still, she had to stay at her room and finish Hugo's job. She had done the sketch after lots of calculation. She drew the statue from different angles. So she drew it 8 times. And that was quite tiresome. Later, she met Hugo in the entrance of her dorm and gave him the sketches. He thanked her multiple times and left. Mu Lan was climbing the stairs and met Yen Su. "Hey Lan, miss me?" Yen Su said in a play tone. Mu Lan's mouth twitched as she asked back, "Can't you just talk normally?" She looked at Yen Su's outfit and asked again, "Where are you going?" Yen Su was wearing a red cocktail dress. It was fitting and revealing. It showed her all attractive areas pretty well. At first, Mu Lan was bothered by the way Yen Su liked to dress up. However, in 1 month, she got used to it. "We got 2 days off. Why will we waste it? We are heading out." "Oh, change your dress. We are giving you 10 minutes. Yen Su replied as she dragged Mu Lan in the second floor and urged Mu Lan to unlock her room. Mu Lan sighed as she felt helpless. She unlocked the room and they entered. Soon, Hua Lan and Chiang came to join them. It was November. The weather was cold. Mu Lan wore a light blue do top, blue Arcano, blue ash utilitarian coat and black pierce booties. 4 girls departed and went to train station. Yen Su didn't tell anyone where were they heading. So the 3 girls were curious. When they got the tickets, then they knew that they were visiting the neighbor city Reims. Yen Su explained, "Hua Lan never visited the cities of France and I believe you guys never had any experience of journey by train." "So do I. That's why I wanted to visit this place. Moreover, it may help us for assignment," Yen Su explained. At first, they visited Cathedral of Notre Dame de Reims. This place was known for formerly the place of coronation of the kings of France. The cathedral was so beautiful that Mu Lan and Hua Lan both looked at the front in awe. Chiang and Yen Su had visited this place before, so they didn't have such awe expression like the other two. Yen Su took her 2 DSLR, Nikon D850 and Canon EOS 80D and snapped photos. Then, they went to St. Remy Basilica, which was about a mile from Cathedral of Notre Dame de Reims. Several royal and archiepiscopal figures lie buried in the basilica, but in unidentified graves. They include Carloman, king of the Franks, 751 to 771, reigned 768 to 771, the brother of Charlemagne. Queen Frederon, died 917, wife of Charles III, 879 to 929. Gerberga of Saxony, 910 to 984, wife of Louis IV, king of Western Francia from 936 to 954. Henri d'Orleans, died about 1653. Lotharii, 941 to 986, king of Western Francia from 954 to 986. Louis IV, king of Western Francia from 936 to 954. They visited the graves with a special permission. Yen Su had a VIP pass. Normal visitors weren't allowed in here, but the museum was open to everyone. They had lunch in a local restaurant. As the night fell down, they walked in the beautiful streets and squares of Reims. The principal squares of Reims included the Place Royale, with a statue of Louis XV, and the Place Cardinal Lucan, with an equestrian statue of Joan of Arc. Then they went to a 5-star hotel to stay for the night. Yan Su and Shui Lin was in one room, and Qiang and Mu Lan was in another room. Everyone was tired except for Yan Su. She opened her laptop and started to type. When they had dinner together, Yan Su excitedly told them how remarkable her photos were. "You seem rather excited," Mu Lan pointed out. "She got an assignment on the historical places of Reims. She is here to study and dragged us with her," Shui Lin said without looking at others. She was busy with eating a delicious chocolate dessert. Qiang and Mu Lan looked at Yan Su without any expression. Yan Su exclaimed, "Hey, I didn't tell you about it." "How do you know?" Shui Lin said nothing and saved Yan Su a look, as if you don't know. Just then Yan Su remembered that this bookworm in front of her was studying psychology. She could read people. Yan Su closed her mouth. "Thank you for giving us the opportunity to visit this beautiful place," Shui Lin said in a low voice. Yan Su held her one ear toward Shui Lin and said, "Did you say something? How come I didn't hear anything? Please repeat your words." However, no matter how many times she pleaded, Shui Lin said nothing more. Next day, they visited Gallo-Roman antiquities and Palace of Tao. Later they went to the monument to the Black Army of Reims and forts. After that, they took train to go back to their campus. They were in the local train and it was crowded. Mu Lan saw a pervert looking at Yan Su's chest with a disgusting look. They were all standing and the pervert was sitting in front of Yan Su. The pervert was a 45-year-old man and he looked like a service holder. Yan Su was wearing a low-cut dress and so it revealed her bosom quite well. Mu Lan looked at Yan Su to signal her. But Yan Su just gave her a glance and winked. Mu Lan's jaw dropped. This girl, she couldn't finish her thought after realizing the fact that this girl was doing it intentionally. All of a sudden, an idea came to Mu Lan's mind. She slowly sneaked behind Yan Su and gave her a hard push. Then she smiled like an idiot and apologized. Yan Su, on the other hand, fell atop of the pervert. The pervert's mouth sank in her luscious, soft breasts. He couldn't help but inhale her sweet scent. But then he experienced something that made him a goner. To keep balance, Yan Su accidentally landed her left hand in the middle of the man's legs, at his majestic spot. Before she could understand anything, she gave a hard squeeze to keep her balance. When she wanted to apologize, the man's face was red and eyes were fuzzy. He looked like that he was going to faint. Just then Yan Su realized her mistake and her hurriedly stood straight and said sorry. Then she gave Mu Lan a glare. Soon, they reached their station and Yan Su blocked Mu Lan on the track. "What was that?" Yan Su asked. "What? Don't tell me you didn't like it?" Mu Lan said as a matter of fact. Yan Su thought for a while and then gave Mu Lan a dirty smile as she said, "It felt quite good." Listening to her reply, Mu Lan's face turned purple in disgust, and Qiang and Shui Lin's faces turned bright red. Yan Su held her chin and asked, "Do you want me to explain this sensation?" The other three exclaimed at once, "No need." If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 139. Chapter 139, Blank Paper. While Mu Lan, Qiang and Shui Lin were being teased by Yan Su, Hugo was reporting Mu Liang about Mu Lan's 2 days activity in Mu Mansion. Hugo gave Mu Liang an envelope containing Mu Lan's photos. Mu Liang looked at each photo and warmth spread his whole body. It's good that she is enjoying herself. Mu Liang thought seeing her bright smile. "Boss, the ball will be held after a month. The school sent you an invitation." Assistant Zhu Long said. "I'll attend." Mu Liang replied shortly. "Of course I'll go. Lan's paintings will be exhibited." He thought. Zhu Long knew that would happen. He started, "But the business trip." "You go." Mu Liang meant Zhu Long was capable enough to go to the business trip alone. So why would he bother? Zhu Long hung his head and said, "Yes, boss." That moment someone barged into the study room. "Brother, I'm home," Mu Feng said in a cheerful voice. Mu Liang threw him a golden card and Mu Feng immediately caught it. "What's this?" Mu Feng opened the card and read, "A ball? In my school? Of course I will go. Brother, count me in," Mu Feng said excitedly. "Wait, isn't Ing working on an assignment? Is that about the ball? Why didn't she say that to me? I could have helped her." "That's exactly why she didn't tell you," Zhu Long replied. "But she is working so hard. Her health is weak," Mu Feng said in a worried tone. "And who made her weak?" Mu Liang asked in his mind. He seemed very displeased. While he was holding back, his younger brother turned into a beast. Mu Liang ordered his younger brother, "Take care of my costume," but Mu Feng beamed. He said, "You are going to? Well, of course you will. Sister-in-law will be there too. That's great. Our costume will be the most gorgeous ones. Our wives will love us to death." Excitedly he left the room. Zhu Long said in a doubtful tone, "He won't overdo it, will he?" Mu Liang worried the same. He ordered Zhu Long, "Contact Qiying." Another 15 days passed. Mu Lan looked at her blank watercolor paper expressionlessly. Her theme was the social life of the Restoration period. Her first picture was of 5 girls in the ball. They were wearing revealing gowns, making them ravishing. The girls were waiting for the men to ask them for dance. It was a grand picture. She was even praised for that. Her second picture was finished after she visited Reims with her friends. This picture was about the coronation of King Charles LL. It was cathedral where the coronation took place. She studied Restoration period. It happened when the monarchy of England was restored. Mu Lan expended 4 days and 3 nights to study the royalty of England. This picture was spectacular and even the head of the Fine Arts Department complimented her work. Now Mu Lan became very popular and everyone became very curious what would be Mu Lan's next piece. And that made Mu Lan pressured. As she was mentally affected by it, whenever she sat in front of her blank, white paper, her ideas flew away. Now there was 15 days left and she still had no idea what to paint. Some people might think that painting was a very easy job when you knew how to draw. But that wasn't the point. Art was life. It had its own story. And when it came to think, if the artist understood the inner meaning, he or she had no problem. But if the artist couldn't figure out the inner meaning, then the painting would carry no value. So an artist had to understand the feelings of their painting. Mu Lan was going nuts. Then she heard a polite knock. She opened the door and found Hua Lan. "You look frustrated," Hua Lan commented as she entered Mu Lan's room. "I can't do it," Mu Lan said in a pained voice. Hua Lan rose an eyebrow. She asked, "Do what?" "The final picture," Mu Lan murmured. Hua Lan could hardly hear her. She sat on the sofa and asked, "What made you think that?" "My mind goes blank when I look at my paper." Mu Lan sat beside her and hung her head. "What's the theme of the picture?" Hua Lan took a heavy book from the tea table. It was about history of Restoration monarchy. Mu Lan cupped her head and replied, "Social life of the Restoration period." Hua Lan suggested, "Browse internet." I did. Mu Lan looked at her laptop which was still turned on. "Read books." Hua Lan gave another idea. Mu Lan looked at the book Hua Lan was touching. She replied, "I read the whole history." "Did you read the literature or history?" Hua Lan wanted to specify. Mu Lan looked at her and said, "You mean?" "I read that in the Restoration period writers for first time wrote novels. You should read them. Hua Lan brought a packet with her and she took out some books and then handed them to Mu Liang. They are the famous novels of that period. Try them. Mu Liang took them and looked at the back to read the summaries. She asked, "How do you know about the novels publishing?" Hua Lan replied, "My assignment was about that period's young women's psychology state. They were pretty stupid." Mu Liang smiled at her comment and said, "Thank you for helping me. I know you came to bring me the books to help me." Hua Lan said straightforwardly, "Don't take me wrong. You are the only one who goes to library unlike some other people. I like the books and that's why I brought them to you. If they help you in your assignment then it is an extra win." She stopped for a few seconds and then said, "Also we have to prepare for the upcoming Viva." Prepare for what? Mu Liang thought she heard something wrong. Hua Lan frowned before saying, "You didn't know? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 140. Chapter 140, I'm thinking of you. /N, I wiped out your saddest chapter and now giving you a cute chapter. XD. Mu Liang took 4 days and 3 nights to complete the books Hua Lan gave her. The books contained love, conspiracy, mockery, comedy, and explicit relationship. Few times she fell asleep feeling extremely boring. Few times she was overly excited and forgot to take her meal properly. Why their love stories are full of dirty love affairs. Mu Liang frowned. She closed the last book and closed her eyes as she relaxed her body. It was November evening. The sky still had the touch of the sun. The wind was cold and it gave Mu Liang a forlorn feeling. She was missing something. Something warm. A handsome face came into her mind. Mu Liang's eyes flew open and she straightened her back. What am I thinking? What is wrong with me? She thought. Past few days, whenever she was reading about something like mature content on the book, she kept thinking about that drunk night. I'm becoming a pervert. It has to be Brother Feng's influence. Mu Liang's face turned red and she screamed in mind. She scratched her head few times in shame. That's when her cell phone chimed. A message? Who is it? Thinking that, she checked her mobile and seeing the name on the screen, her heart shook. Speak of the devil. It was Mu Liang. She read the content. I'm thinking of you. You're Liang. She read the message and her heart filled with warmth. What a coincidence. She thought. She immediately replied. I'm thinking of you too. The moment she tapped the send button, then she realized what she did. She felt panic. What should I do? What should I do? She tapped her head on the table and regretted her action. I shouldn't have done that. Does it make me shameless? Oh, how am I going to face him? She wanted to roll on the floor. Mu Liang didn't reply the message. However, it was clearly written that the message had been sent. Maybe he didn't see the message. Mu Liang sighed in relief and relaxed her body. That moment her stomach growled. She didn't had her lunch today, so she was very hungry. Feeling upset, she looked at the clock. It was 6:30. The dinner in the cafeteria wasn't ready yet and she didn't want to eat fast food. So she had to wait a little longer. Mu Liang went to bed and tried to take a nap. But with hungry stomach, it wasn't easy to take a nap. 15 minutes later, her cell phone rang. Annoyed, she received her call with her eyes closed. Hello? She said. Come to the entrance. I'm waiting. A deep voice said and then hung up. Mu Liang jumped out of the bed. Oh my God. It was Liang. She screamed in mind and panicked. He is in the entrance. He wants to meet me. She walked from one side to another side for 10 seconds and she took some deep breaths. Okay, come down. I have to think it properly, she told herself. She looked at herself. She was wearing a half-sleeved Hello Kitty pink t-shirt and a 3/4 pant. Mu Lan changed her pant and wore a ash-colored jean and wore a pair of pink booties. It had fluffy wool on the upper side and looked very cute. Then she wore a pink sweater and covered her head with the hood. She hurriedly went downstairs and borrowed a cycle from the guard and rode it to the entrance. Mu Lan saw outside the gate a red Koenigsegg CCXR Trevita was standing, attracting lots of viewers. She saw it once, when she went to have a dinner in Eiffel Tower with Mu Liang. Mu Lan wanted to dig a hole and bury herself. Would it kill him if he took his black limited edition Bugatti Veyron by Mansouri Vivara? At least, that was less showy, she thought. She gave the cycle to the entrance guard and requested him to send it back to the girls' dorm. Then she walked to the car. Ronald was standing beside the car and opened the door when he saw Mu Lan. He greeted her with his smile and said, "Young miss, please get in." Mu Lan hid her face and nodded to him and went inside the car. She saw Mu Liang sitting on the other side and looking at her. Mu Lan's heart skipped a bit. Suddenly she felt hot. She wasn't sure if it was because she was inside the car or it was his gaze. Mu Liang's eyes narrowed as he glanced her whole body. He asked her, "Why are you wearing so little?" Mu Lan replied, "I'm not feeling that cold." She was telling the truth. She rode the cycle and now she was in a warm car. "Come here." Mu Liang stretched his hand and hugged her closer and then covered her with his large coat. Mu Lan wanted to move back but Mu Liang was hugging her waist and held him close. She couldn't budge. "Why are you here?" Flustered, she asked. "You were thinking of me, which means you missed me. So why should I let you suffer?" Mu Liang's words were so blunt and Mu Lan couldn't help but blush. "Weren't that you who messaged me first that you were thinking of me? It meant that you missed me first." Mu Lan didn't want to lose. "Did I?" Mu Liang asked with an innocent face. "Mu Lan. Ronald. You?" Mu Lan couldn't finish what she wanted to say. The guy beside her was so shameless that it made her speechless. Clearly he didn't deny, neither did he agree. It was clear that he was teasing her. And that innocent look. Mu Lan couldn't get mad, neither could she retort back. Feeling upset at herself, she sat there still and sulked. However, soon her sulking was gone when Mu Liang rubbed her cold hands and made them warm. Mu Liang's body was also warm and her cold body became hot sooner. She felt relaxed and that moment her stomach growled again. She felt embarrassed. When Mu Liang asked, "Didn't you have lunch?" her shyness flew away and her body stiffed. She was guilty. "I was busy." Her voice sounded like mosquito. "Then you have to eat for lunch and dinner. Be prepare," Mu Liang said in a cold voice. Mu Lan wanted to sob. "My stomach will burst." Unfortunately, she couldn't say that loud. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 141. Chapter 141, You are cute and beautiful. /N, have you read the last edited chapter? When the car reached the destination, it was already 7:30. Ronald opened the door and then Mu Lan got free from Mu Liang's warm embrace. Mu Lan quickly got off. Seeing that, Mu Liang smiled lightly. Mu Lan saw a grand restaurant. She didn't find a nameplate. Mu Liang brought her inside. Mu Lan looked at the place in amazement. It was a huge restaurant. The walls were white in color. The curtains were red and the lights were golden. At night, it gave her an alluring feeling. But it wasn't the end. Mu Liang took her the other side. There was door to go out. They entered the garden. In the garden there were white tables and chairs. The mild yellow lights gave a very romantic feeling. Mu Liang's heart beat crazily. Mu Liang took her in the corner and held a sit for her. After she sat, he took off his coat and placed it over her and sat down. "Aren't you feeling cold?" Mu Lan asked. "I'm warmer than you are." Mu Liang replied, giving her no face. The table was small. So even though they were in the opposite sides, as they were bigger in size, it felt that they were seating very closely. At night, in the garden, mild light and close proximity, they were enough to give Mu Lan goosebumps. Wasn't he worried about how cold I was? Then why he wanted to sit in the outside? She thought. Soon a waiter came and greeted them politely. Then he said the order would come in a short time. After that he left. Mu Liang gave attention to Mu Lan. He said, "What's on your mind?" Mu Lan hesitated before speaking. "Why are we sitting outside? Aren't you afraid that I will catch cold?" Mu Liang looked at her in silence for some time, and later he said, "I'm not worried about you catching cold. Because I will warm you up. And about the place we are sitting," he held her hand and rubbed them slowly, "this way no one can see what we are doing. It is romantic that way, don't you think?" In the mild yellow light, Mu Liang's eyes glinted. Just when he mentioned the word romantic, immediately Mu Lan's face turned red. She looked around and found some couple were sitting intimately and having dinner. Mu Lan tried to move her hands away, but unable to do so. "There are other people," Mu Lan said in a low voice. "Do you think they have free time to look at us? They are busy with themselves." Mu Liang kept holding her hands. Mu Lan saw other women were wearing beautiful dresses. She looked down at her. She had a kitty dress up and 2 braids. She felt a little inferior. Mu Liang understood her thought and said, "You are fine the way you are. Don't feel bad. You are cute and beautiful." He squeezed her hands. Mu Lan's face turned hot and her heart was about to leave her rib cage. What is wrong with him tonight? Why is he being so? Mu Lan couldn't finish her thought. He let go of her hands when the waiter came and served the dishes. The smells of the foods made Mu Lan nearly drool. They had French onion soup, prawn and salmon tranche, beef and vegetable ragout, braised pork with pearl onions and grapes, crispy monkfish and capers, profiterole, risotto à l'impératrice and at last red wine. Mu Lan looked at the foods and then glanced at Mu Liang. "Did you starve for 3 days?" she asked. "Isn't that you who loves to skip meals? Also you can parcel the food if you can't eat. Now eat properly. You need stamina for your assignment." Mu Liang served her onion soup. "You know about my assignment?" She wouldn't be surprised if he told her that he got the invitation. Mu Lan wouldn't be astonished if he heard about her assignment either. After all, Hugo was there to keep an eye on her. She was worried about the fact that despite her assignment, she helped others and nearly lost her mind. Hugo's assignment specially. If he knew about that. "I'm looking forward to your 3 paintings," Mu Liang said. Mu Lan smiled. Feeling relieved inside, she said, "You'll enjoy the ball. I'll be waiting for you," he said in a deep voice. Mu Lan's hand halted in the midway. Not every student could enjoy the ball. Only the representative of the each department which arranged the ball could join. Yen Su was from prestigious family, so she would definitely attend. Xiying lost her family support, but as she was the representative of her fashion design department, so she was going to attend. And since Xuelin got the highest score in the entrance exam, so she was invited. However, Mu Lan didn't achieve none of them and her identity was hidden. So even with Mu title, she couldn't join. Mulan didn't want to upset Mu Liang, who looked forward to the ball. She wanted to let him see her achievement. She wanted it dearly. She wished to let him know that all he had done for her would not go in vain. She once promised him that she would not make him regret his decision to marry him. She would not break it. She would make him proud. Something flashed in her eyes. She froze on the spot. Mu Liang noticed her sudden weird behavior. He also stopped eating and worriedly asked, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Is the food not your liking?" Without a word, Mulan took out her cell phone and started to tap it. Feeling curious, Mu Liang took a glance on the screen. He saw her drawing something on the screen. He asked, "For assignment?" She nodded and said, "Don't wait for me. You can continue eating." She didn't took off her eyes from the screen. Mu Liang sighed and placed his chair closer to her and then started to feed her. "I won't eat alone. Here, open your mouth," he said gently. Mulan didn't hesitate and listened to him. Her focus was on the screen. She didn't mind around her. But her mouth and nose betrayed her for her hungry stomach. This food is delicious. What is this place? Are the heavenly food?" she exclaimed when Mu Liang put some salmon in her mouth. He smiled to see her eyes sparkled. He said, "This place is called Epicure." So good. I want more." Mulan sank in the taste of food. Mu Liang's heart was full. His eyes were as warm as spring sun. He continued feeding her. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 142. Chapter 142, Good night. Half an hour later, Mulan shoved the cell phone in front of Mu Liang. "What do you think?" Her eyes glittered. However, Mu Liang gave the whole different expression. His eyes became dark. Mu Liang put down the fork and the knife and grabbed Mulan's head. Then kissed her passionately. Mulan was startled by the sudden action. Before she could react, a flame filled up her whole body. She still couldn't control her emotion when he was around. Mu Liang's deep kiss, his manly smell, the fire inside her body drove her senseless. Mulan clutched his shirt tightly and subconsciously kissed him back. Mu Liang froze at her action, and before he knew it, he kissed her harder. Their tongues swirled together and they felt numbness. Mulan softly moaned few times. When Mulan nearly fainted because of lack of oxygen, that moment Mu Liang moved back his head slightly. Their saliva was joined together as they breathed with mouth. Mulan's face was flushed and her eyes were teary. Mu Liang's face was warm and his eyes held desire. Their noses were touching and they could feel each other's warm breaths. They kept looking at each other and didn't blink. Mu Liang leaned to her like a magnet and slightly kissed her moist lips. After that, he put his head on her left shoulder and said in a hoarse voice, "This picture is too good for me." Slowly Mulan came back to sense. Her heart was beating violently. She felt that everything was spinning around her. Mu Liang could sense that something was wrong. He gently laid her back on the chair. The coat which fell on the chair, he put it over her chest. Seeing her like that, Mu Liang felt guilty. He gulped down some wine and offered Mulan. She sipped a little and finding some stamina back, she sat up. "I want the dessert," she said weakly. Mu Liang fed her 2 chocolate balls. Then she refused to eat anything because she was full. Mu Liang ordered the waiter to pack the rest of the food. He tried to take her in arms and Mulan refused. I want to walk on my own," she said. It took her time to gain some strength. She stood up and wobbled. Still she refused to be carried. Mu Liang silently walked beside her and they left the restaurant. Ronald kept the car on the entrance. Mu Liang helped Mu Lan to do inside the car and later he went in. The journey to the school campus was silent. Ronald felt something was fishy. He kept looking at the rear view mirror and watched his boss and young mistress's faces. Some moment later, the partition between the front side and back side closed. Ronald's heart shook. He tried to keep calm and to drive. He felt like it was a long journey. Finally, the car reached the school entrance. Mu Lan took the packet of food and stretched her other hand to open the door. As she touched the door of the car, a sudden force made her fall in a warm chest. Before she could say something, Mu Liang's lips crashed on hers. Mu Lan's breath hitched. The sudden force burned her whole body. This time, Mu Liang's lips didn't stay at her lips only. He moved his lips on her neck. Mu Lan didn't lose her sense this time. Feeling his kisses on her neck, she used her all strength to push him back. With slight dizziness she said, "I've to go back. Good night." Then she hurriedly left. Mu Liang kept looking at her back with forlorn eyes till she disappeared. Mu Lan's whole body was hot. She could remember his touch. She shivered. The cold night couldn't control what she was feeling. As soon as she reached her room, she took off her shoes and sweater. She put the food on the freeze and then went into the painting room. She wore an apron and stood in front of the blank paper. Mu Lan closed her eyes and recalled Mu Liang's warmth, his smell, his touch, everything. She opened her eyes and without blinking kept looking at the blank paper. Then she took the brush. After wasting 4 papers and some colors, finally Mu Lan was satisfied with her work. However, her head was spinning. She dizzily took off her apron and jeans. She went to washroom and washed her face. Still her head wasn't working well. She went to the bedroom and looked at the window. Why outside is bright? Is it? She couldn't finish her thought. Before that, she fell on the soft bed and knocked out. It was already 8 in the morning. Mu Lan woke up when she heard her mobile was constantly ringing. Feeling super annoyed, she received the call. "Hello?" she said in a sleepy voice. "Young miss, are you still sleeping?" Hugo's aloof personality couldn't hold back his disbelief tone. "Hugo, stop disturbing," Mu Lan said. She still wanted to sleep. "Young miss, you already missed 2 classes. I was worried. More importantly, Ms. Moore is going to trip. You have to hurry." Ms. Moore was the watercolor teacher. She was going to vacation. She told Mu Lan to submit her work before she went to her trip. Today was her last class before her trip. "What? What are you talking?" Mu Lan rubbed her eyes and looked at the wall clock. It was 2:30. Mu Lan's eyes almost popped out of the sockets. Holy! If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 143. Chapter 143, She is Exceptional. After 10 minutes, Mu Lan came downstairs and hurriedly went to the department. In 10 minutes, she jumped out of the bed, freshened her face, wore jeans, and rolled the painting, put on her shoes. She forgot to comb her hair, she forgot to wear a sweater, and instead of shoe, she was wearing her slippers. When she came in front of the elevator, it was on the 4th floor. She didn't wait and climbed the stairs. As she went to the department, she saw Ms. Moore was leaving. "Ms. Moore!" Mu Lan exclaimed. Ms. Moore looked back and gave her a sweet smile. "Isn't this my prodigy? You missed today's class. Why do you look like a mess?" Ms. Moore looked concerned. Mu Lan breathed heavily and gave the rolling paper to Ms. Moore. "I'm okay, Ms. Moore. Please check it." "Oh, you've finished it. Let's go to my room and check it." Ms. Moore took the paper and headed to her room. Teacher and disciple went inside. Ms. Moore said, I almost thought I couldn't see your last painting. Now I feel the last syllable of the word relax was caught on her throat. She kept looking at the painting before her and forgot to breathe. Mu Lan felt uneasy. Her heart was beating loudly. Is it not good enough? She thought. She was standing behind Ms. Moore, so she couldn't see her teacher's expression. A whole 1 minute later, Ms. Moore opened her mouth. Lan, my dear, what made you paint that? Mu Lan wondered. Why is she behaving like this? In my eyes, I didn't make any mistake. Mu Lan replied, I've read some novels of the Restoration period. I wanted to show everyone those people's real feelings. That's all. Mu Lan could feel that she was sweating. You mean that you wanted to show everyone's true desire? Ms. Moore said.